Hello, hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I'm your host, John Harris, and on my lap here today is Avila. She's going to be our assistant for the podcast. We've got DEAD Reynolds today, and they have a new album called Breathe with Strangers, which was released on September 17th via Fort Records. Right now I'm being joined by Dominic to share some more information about this release, as well as what the boys have got going on. So, Dominic, welcome to the show.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely great to have you on. Now, tell us about this album, Breathe with Strangers. What is this album about? What does that mean to breathe with strangers? Because kind of a unique thing if you think about it.
Yeah, well, it's obviously irony. It was developed around the time of the pandemic. The whole thing's been recorded over the pandemic. The irony is that for a long period of time we couldn't breathe with strangers, so we just felt that the title was something that we couldn't do at that time. We now are starting to again, so we just felt that let's encompass it with the whole album being around that concept.
Okay, so then it is not just a pandemic album in that it was written and recorded in the pandemic. It's actually intentionally designed lyrically as well to be a pandemic album.
Yeah, to a certain degree. I mean, quite a lot of the songs are about how we felt, the restrictions, the lockdowns, the mental health issues, breakdowns of relationships, people losing jobs and work, and just the whole thing, really. It's, it's had a massive worldwide effect. And we just felt that we'd write a bunch of songs that encompassed how we felt and maybe a bit of hope for the future. There's certainly tracks on there that there's hope for the future. There's all sorts on there. But, yeah, it was all written, recorded, the whole thing throughout the pandemic. So, yeah, we just felt that by bringing it all together was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you mentioned quite a few things that are mental health issues. I know in Canada, anyway, was it suicides went up 40%?
Yep. No, I think we're exactly the same. To be fair, I think it's affected everybody. People have been locked in at home. They've had deaths in their families and grief and loss of income and the whole thing. And I just think that you've only got to look at the sporting world at the moment in the Olympics. You've got, massive superstars in all different sports pulling out because they can't cope with the pressure. It's had a knock-on effect everywhere. So there's certainly a good couple of songs, if not more, on the album that reflect not only how we have felt, but also how we feel other people may have felt throughout the whole thing and still are doing so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned, that you still do it. I mean, to a degree, I guess it's not over yet, but I guess as just a philosophical question, maybe a philosophical, how long do you think it's going to take for life to return back to normal?
I don't think it ever will, if I'm honest. It's my opinion. I think we're going to be left with the scars of this for a long time. Certainly over here, restrictions are lifting a little bit, and but we're still seeing devastating effects in families where people are getting it, and people are still wearing masks, and certain things are not. Concerts are being cancelled or festivals are being cancelled. So I think it's going to be a couple of years before we get back to anything like we were. But I think it's going to be with us for a long time, and we've got to learn to live with it really, and hopefully we can get over it.
Yeah. Absolutely. How did Fort Records get involved? Did you guys record the album and then shop around, or were they already involved when you guys were working on it?
They're already involved. We've been with Fort now since the inception of the band 2.5 years ago. I was in a different band with a number of the guys. We were signed to Fort Records 5 or 6 years ago. That band dissolved, and they stuck by me as from the first band, and then we built a new band around it. So they've been involved ever since, and they're great guys. Our management company is also linked to them as well. So Crescendo Music Management and Fort Records are two guys that have been involved now for the last 5 or 6 years. So yeah, they're fully behind it, and we're really pleased that they're on board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned a few pieces of the puzzle there. Crescendo Music Management. Yep. Kind of a funny question, but how did they get involved? Did you seek them out, or did they find you?
You know what? We was at a little gig 5 or 6 years ago in the previous band, and it was a gig we weren't even going to do, and we were playing a bunch of covers, and they happened to be in the show. They approached us at the end of the show and said, "Look, we run a music management company, and we've also got a record label that are associated with us. Can we have a chat?" And we thought it was a joke. we thought it was whatever, cool. They followed up with all the phone calls and the emails, and we met them a few times, and they put contacts in front of us, and we've now I did 2 albums with them from a previous band, and then they've now looked after us with a couple of EPs, and obviously now this album. So yeah, it was one of those kind of surreal moments. It was real, despite us thinking it was a joke. But they're good guys. They've become friends with us, they're like family, and without them we couldn't do half the things we do. So we really appreciate having them on board.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many times does that happen for a band? I mean, I guess maybe because you guys were a smaller band, you're like, right, some management company wants to work with us, right?
Yep. And I vividly remember the meeting we had. We met Johnny and the 2 guys in a hotel, and they started getting flip charts and presentations out and SWOT analysis and all this, and we're like, oh right, this is the real deal then. We just expect them to be like, yeah, give us 50 grand and we'll make you famous. It wasn't like that. It was, this is what we want to do, this is the 5-year plan, this is the album, this is what we want to do, we've been looking for some bands, you fit the bill, blah blah blah, and we're like, okay, yeah, this looks quite cool, let's give it a go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there's some things that you couldn't have done without them. What kind of things does a management company bring to a band?
I mean, first and foremost, just the support. There's certain things we just didn't have any idea about. We didn't have many contacts in the industry at that time. We didn't really have any idea about recording a music video or who to talk to. We'd never booked up any festivals, any tours. Within the first year, we'd been around the UK. We'd been over to Poland. We'd been around Scotland. Shot 4 or 5 music videos. Recorded a couple of EPs, whatever. It's kind of knowing what to do. I mean, yeah, you can find out that stuff, you can Google stuff, and you can follow paths, but to have people who know what to do and have contacts with media and PR and all that stuff, it's just so much easier. And, there's definitely pros and cons. I think, we've got friends who are in independent bands, and they can make more decisions for themselves, and they can decide what to do a bit more than we can. But to have that level of support is massive, really. And as I say, we couldn't operate to the level we're doing. We could certainly carry on doing it, but to get the production we need, and the videos and the PR and radio plugin, you'll have heard of us through plugin, I guess. And we've MRR plugin company, plugin baby. We've had radio plays all over the world now. We never would have been able to do that ourselves. So it's just the level of support and the funding behind it, and it's, we're in a very privileged position, and we really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a big question that a lot of bands have that I get is, how do I get heard? Well, you either hire a PR firm, or get with a management company that'll get you out there somehow. They have a PR firm, or they use one, or whatever. And
okay. Yeah, and I think, obviously there's so many platforms now. You can put YouTube videos up, you can put your stuff on Spotify. The big problem is you're part of a massive pool of other bands and talent and songwriters or whatever it might be. So, if you want to get heard by the radio world, or people that can build playlists or whatever, unfortunately you've got to engage services, and all that comes at a cost and a price. So I wouldn't say you get what you pay for, but you get quite a lot what you pay for. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah. If you want broccoli and you don't know how to grow it, you got to go buy it.
Exactly that. Yeah, and there's still loads of stuff we do ourselves. We have to supplement everything that goes on. We still do loads on social media and everything else. But to have a team of creative people around us, it's a good place to be, because things can happen. So we're nowhere near where we want to be. We're still on that journey, and we're maybe quarter of the way up the mountain, but we're making strides, which is, as I say, we're further ahead than we would be, I think.
Cool. Now, you mentioned concerts and festivals a few times. I imagine quite a few of those may or may not be going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, we hadn't played live since we did one show on Halloween last year. Prior to that, we had a year off because of the restrictions. Every festival last summer was cancelled. Unfortunately, quite a number this year have been already. I think it's just promoters are concerned about the outlay to bigger named artists that they've got to pay. So certainly the middle tier festivals in the UK seem to have gone, and the local festivals pretty much as well. We're on tour, which is great, come September and October. We've managed to keep some dates from last year and pulled them over, and we've managed to build in some new dates. And we've got a handful of festivals as well, so it's probably not exactly where we want it to be, but it's 5 shows. We're going to be able to play stuff, and I think that's as good as it's going to get this year, and maybe next year we can get back to some kind of normality.
What can you tell us about the tour that's going on in September, October?
So we do an album launch show September the 16th in a really, really eclectic and Victorian hotel. We decided to go a bit different, and rather than going down the rock venue route, we've hired a Victorian ballroom, which we're going to deck out, and we're going to kind of make it a black tie event and make it a bit different. We then play, I think, 12 shows after that, which take in kind of Cambridge, Norwich, London, Birmingham, all the usual kind of places, a couple of festivals in between, and then towards the end of the year we've got another couple as well. So we found it quite difficult to book venues. The bigger bands seem to be taking the better slots in the bigger venues, which is as expected. So the smaller bands are being left with what's kind of left. But we've taken what we can and built some kind of tour, at least to try and promote the album and get out there again.
Mm-hmm. Abso-freaking-lutely. Speaking of the radio, I just remembered something that, like you've got cars going by, I've got my beautiful little girl here, and I was on a radio spot once, a few years ago, and I had my son with me who was young at the time, and I said, yeah, my son's going to have to come with, and they're like, yeah, you can't do that. You can't have a baby on the radio. I'm like, cool, I'll do a podcast instead then. I can have a baby on the podcast.
Yep.
So.
Works, man.
Yeah.
Works.
I won't go where it's not my place, man, but I'll bring it down. So there's a music video for the track Bring It Down. I guess take us through the music video for Bring It Down. In the beginning, you guys have a bit of a, what's the word I want to use? It's a dark message. Almost.
Yeah, as far as Johnson, it goes back to the whole sense. It's very central to the whole thing that we're doing, and we just felt that we wanted a video that's really two halves, and hopefully you got the concept that the first part is very based around the restrictions. You've got a guy on his own, he's lonely, he's locked up on his own, he's got mental health issues, nobody wants to talk to him, all that kind of stuff. And then through the power of music, through the power of a live band, he goes and meets people who he can gel with, who he can understand, who are like him. And we just felt that was, the track's quite uplifting in places, and we just felt that by bringing that message through, that was how we've been feeling. So that was the reason it was the first single off the album, the reason the video was shot in that way as well. And I think it's come out pretty well, and we've certainly got a lot of positivity from doing it, and that's the bones behind it.
Yeah. Because at first I was like, oh no, this is going to be like a, I don't know, anti-restriction video or something, and then...
No. Yeah, and I think... we wanted it to be more than that. We wanted to show the guy in his flat on his own. That's where he lived. He hadn't got anywhere to go.
Yeah.
The use of the masks was to try and replicate the way he felt, and obviously there was 10 or 12 other people, maybe more than that in the end, that were in the same headspace as him. He finds them, they find him, and obviously at the end of the gig they take the masks off, and it's all supposed to be that we're all one, and there's hope for the future and things like that. That's the idea behind it, so I'm hoping that's come across.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I did get the message. At first I was like, and then and then I watched it and I got it. And it was good cinematography. I enjoyed it, everything was good.
Yeah, that in itself was tricky. It was, everybody had to do 2 COVID tests. We had to get kind of written permission from people to do it. It was quite a number of the cast that were supposed to be there then couldn't be there because of the the apps and COVID restrictions. So we had to kind of shoehorn people in. So the whole thing was quite stressful, really, to try and get it done on time. It wasn't easy, and in fact the whole album's been like that. We've carried on recording, we've carried on doing demos and stuff, and we'd normally all be in the studio together, but our producer's like, no, I can only get one of you in or two of you in. So we've had to do stuff on our own, or we've had to go over at different times of the day. And the whole process has been really, and I'm sure loads of other bands have had it as well, but the whole process has been one, very elongated, but two, quite difficult to manage. And I'm just pleased we've got there in the end.
How did this change? I mean, obviously you mentioned 1 to 2 guys at a time in the studio, but is there anything from this process that's going to change how you guys work at all?
Yeah, no, I think we'll do more writing with. So Jack is our producer. He worked on the previous 2 EPs. We've worked with him for a couple of years. Jack Murphy, he's a great guy, started musician. He's got his own band as well. Half the songs were written with him, which I did with him over the Christmas and January-February period, and then showed those to the rest of the guys, and they loved them straight away. I think you might have a copy of Not My Place, which is the next single. So that was a collaboration with me and Jack, and the next 4 or 5 are the same. So I think the biggest thing that's come out of this process for me is working with somebody, which I've not really ever done before, on music and structure and arrangement has been brilliant, because it's a different perception, a different set of eyes, different set of ears, and I think we've got a lot better products off the back of doing that, and I think we'll definitely carry on doing that.
Mm-hmm. What prevented you guys from working with somebody before in that capacity?
I just don't think we'd ever thought of doing it, and also I would always have written the songs and then gone into the studio and gone, oh, here's our 5 songs, what do you think? And it's like, yeah, cool, let's demo them and record them. Whereas this time it was like, here's my 5 songs, let's take them apart, let's rebuild them, let's change choruses, let's change bridges, let's do this, let's put a riff there, and almost deconstruct them to then rebuild them. And I think it's paid dividends for us.
Oh, Dominic, it will pay dividends.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's another point. Some bands ask, how can we go to the next level? Well, find a producer that you want to work with.
Yeah, and this is it. And I think I was always very resistant from it. In every band I've ever been in, I've been the main songwriter for lyrics and music, and I've always been quite protective over it. But I think, having heard what Jack had done, and he kind of did a little kind of test job on a couple of songs, I love what he did. So then we decided to do this 5 or 6 together, and it's worked really well. So we'll definitely carry on doing that.
Yeah.
As long as he wants to keep us, that's the thing. So.
This is very true. Very true. Now, you mentioned that obviously it's a pandemic album. Is it a story at all? Like, does it have a protagonist in it?
Not in any other terms other than this is the way we felt at the time, and we're hoping other people felt the same, and this is kind of the hope for the future. It's certainly not a proggy type start to finish story. Each song has got its own theme and story, which I think will become quite evident as people listen. I mean, there's a track called Voices, which is largely about mental health. Bring It Down, we've just talked about. There's others that are the same. Bright Lights is about sort of future hope and things like that. So they're all linked to the subject, but there's nothing kind of... they don't lead on one from the other, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. How about Not My Place? What is Not My Place about?
Yeah, that's more of a relationship breakdown. It's the way that the pandemic has made a couple feel, not being able to kind of get away from each other, not being able to be independent, having to do everything together, and then they feel that they've drifted apart. It's not my place to tell you how I feel. It's not my place for me to make you feel better. And it's, in the end, obviously, if you listen to the lyrics, it's the whole breakdown of everything, really linked to what's been going on. And I think there's a lot of people out there that's felt that way.
Tell me about it, Dom. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I can't get away from this one right now.
You don't want to.
I appreciate your patience on this one. Beautiful. Okay, so far we've chatted about the pandemic, the effects of the pandemic, what's currently going on. I had heard in the UK they were going to be lifting some restrictions, but it sounds like some people are still being smart, which is good. Where I'm at, they've undone just about all of them, and all hell is breaking loose now. So this is a very interesting time. Because Because the last message that we got after a 700% increase in cases was, by the way, you won't even need to wear masks in public or isolate if you get COVID. And we're like, wait, hold on a second, what? So the first part of the update is the 700% increase in cases. The next part of the update is we're going to go ahead and keep laxing restrictions?
Yeah, we're the same, man. So face masks are gone if you don't want to wear them anymore. I'm still wearing mine in public places. People are going back to work. They're suggesting people test. Obviously, everybody's being jabbed as well. So I think it's similar, very similar guidance that you're getting as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's mad. I mean, we've got a different variant over here. They call it the Delta variant. At one point, they were getting upward of 40 to 50,000 cases per day. We're down to about 20,000 cases per day now, and we're down to about 100 deaths, which is obviously 100 too many. But if you think about where we was at 5 or 10. It's gone up again.
Yeah.
So whether or not that's we've just gone through the European Football Championships where quite a number of those games were held in London, Wembley. They allowed 40, 50, 60,000 people in. We've had other test events, music events, sports events. Kids are on holiday. Whether that's a byproduct of that, I don't know. But it's definitely going up again.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a worry.
Yeah. And then what else we chat about? Concerts, festivals, we even snuck the Tokyo Olympics in there, which maybe some people are paying attention.
Yeah. It's all good. Great Britain seems to be doing quite well. So, long will that continue.
Yeah, that's good. Canada's doing about as good as Canada does at the Summer Olympics.
Yeah, I think you're more Winter Olympics, I guess.
We're there for the Winter Olympics.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, summer we're like, what's that?
It's actually more blowing my mind. I'm speaking to somebody in Canada, and it's like you're sat in my car. It's just the whole technology thing just blows me up. It's weird.
Sweet.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like we could breathe with strangers electronically now.
Absolutely that. Yeah.
All right, beautiful. We chatted about why you need a manager, kind of, or at least a production team or a team around you as a band. Because a lot of times we think of the band as the team. We don't think of there being a team to help out the band.
Yeah, I mean, previously that's the way it's always been. But, when we signed with Crescendo and the Fort, we then got offered to work with a videographer and a radio plugger, Spotify plugger, whatever it might be. And, we felt let's give it a go, and it's worked. I don't think we'd have had probably a tenth of the radio play, certainly not in the UK and or around the world, that we would have had without somebody that actually knows how to do that. The same with Spotify. We've not really ever done that before, so to be getting 50,000 or 100,000 streams on songs, I just don't think we'd have been able to do that ourselves as effectively. We can't take our own pictures, really, so we need a photographer and producers we talked about. So, that kind of makes up our creative team, really. So we're lucky to have them, and, I think we'd struggle to do it any other way, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else we chat about? We chatted about a tour from September to October you guys have got going on, so fingers crossed that goes through.
I think you were going to talk about how you could get us a Canadian tour, and I think that was the next point to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
America's fine, whatever you can do.
Okay, if you want to go there.
I'm not sure that the band van would make it, but we'll give it a go.
Yeah. I'm sure things are fine. It's just being the neighbor, it's like you just see a fire going all the time on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, right. Then a grizzly bear walks up.
Yeah, they took the pandemic to a different level, I think.
That is. Well, all right, let's not do that
then. Yeah, we'll get you into Toronto and play a bunch of shows in Toronto, maximize it, send you over to Montreal, and then I think that's one thing we'd love to do. We regularly play across the UK, love doing that, but to get and in the previous band I played a little bit in Germany and a bit in Poland as well. That's great, but to meet different people from different cultures and probably to play in different countries, I think that'd be one for our kind of bucket list a little bit, if possible.
May or may never happen, but it'd be nice to do a little bit. That'd be great.
Yeah, I guess one last question I have is, you mentioned playing in Germany, playing in Poland. What were some of the highlights of playing in some of those countries that are obviously away from home?
The people. It's a very different mentality. It really was as if we were kind of a really big rock band showing up, which we didn't expect. So they just seem to really appreciate live music. We played the big Warsaw Rock Festival in Poland, another rock venue, and then did something similar in Germany. And I think just because of our style of music, it's obviously quite rocky and driven and heavy-ish. They love all that over there. We just got really embraced, and it just seems to be a big thing over there. So the people were great, and I'd go back in a heartbeat to do that again. It was brilliant.
Cool. All right. Well, that concludes my questions. Is there anything that I missed, Dominic?
No, it's been good. I think we got through it. Skype works. Daughters work.
Yeah.
My phone works.
Yeah. Everything, all the satellites coordinated for us today.
Massively, man. And I was worried because I've never used Skype, man. I only use Teams or Zoom. And when it came through Skype, I was like, how the hell does that work? And my mate said, you just download it and type it in. It comes up, and it did. I just typed in the Rock Metal podcast or what it was, and straight up. So here we are, and it worked. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on today.
Not at all, man. So yeah, just keep in touch. We've got a new track coming out in about a month, so hopefully you'll love that as well. You've heard it anyway. So and there's another one coming out in October. So any kind of support we're really grateful for.
Absolutely.